Oh, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get Celebritized, my brand new podcast here. And I am so honored and excited to bring to you an amazing young woman, and is one of the reasons why I jumped in to do this podcast, because she encouraged me and said, get into this space. So before I bring her on, I wanted to say a few words about her, because Melissa Carcache is amazing. She is a former actress on Nickelodeon and the Hallmark Channel. And I know my community, we are all about Hallmark, and you cannot get us off the couch during Christmas season. I'm just saying. She's also a producer and a podcaster with her sister, Stephanie. They host and have created, we are the Millennial Woman, spit it out, Millennial Women Talk podcast. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. But I want you to hear these stats, because I know this is important to my community. Melissa herself has over 72,000 followers on Instagram. Her sister has over 14,000. These are young women making an impact. And their We Are Millennial Women IG Instagram has over 11,000 followers as well as they're a movement. They've got inspirational t-shirts. They've got sponsors like Volkswagen and Prudential and Crunchy Waves. They are happening. They are young and they are on the move. And I want them to come here. And I want Melissa to tell us a little bit more about how she's doing all this. So Melissa, welcome to Get Celebritized.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited that your podcast is here. You've launched. We're excited.
I did. In case you don't know, the viewers and listeners don't know, we met on Clubhouse in a podcast room. Yes. And Melissa was so gracious up there talking about her podcast, talking about Millennial Women Talk. And it really intrigued me. And I came up on the stage and said, I'm a TV show host. Been thinking about this podcasting thing. Should I? And Melissa just jumped in and just gave me all the reasons why I should. And then was a woman of her word. She says, if you do it, I'll be on your show. And here she is. So I love that.
Oh, I'm so happy and excited for you. Congratulations on your launch. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it means a lot to me coming from you, because you are the generation that is kicking it in this podcast world. And I want to get right into it, because my community of mostly women that are 40 and over, entrepreneurs trying to make things happen, and also trying to make things happen for our daughters and our sons and the next generation. Because I know I have two daughters, one's 35 and one is 16. So I got, the two gamuts here, and they're looking for women like you to inspire them on how to make it in this world. It's so different now than it used to be. You don't just go to college, get a job, get the gold watch after 40 years. It's a whole different landscape. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got into being your own entrepreneur, your own producer, and a podcaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So I'm 33 now, and I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. Cuban parents who are also entrepreneurs. So I kind of saw the journey of entrepreneurship through my parents, the ups and downs, the bankruptcies, the failures, the successes, all the nuts and bolts of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. And I've always wanted to be an actress since I was 5 years old. My mom never allowed me to pursue it as a little kid, because she really wanted me to enjoy my childhood and be a kid, which I'm grateful for that decision, because I had a beautiful childhood. But with that said, when I was about 14, she kind of had to cave in, because my dance coach was auditioning and taking acting classes up north in Florida. And I was like, Mom, like, you have to let me do this. Like, she's like, okay, if you audition and get into the school, then I'll allow you to pursue it. So I really rehearsed and I tried really hard to get into the school, and I did. And I was really smart, because that school also had like an agency management side. So I knew if I got in, not only would I be trained, but I would also be able to audition, which is what I wanted. So I got in, I auditioned, went to Los Angeles at 16, got my first agent, did the whole thing. And then my mom,
you went there. Yeah. Now you're in Los Angeles. You got to fill in that little gap real quick. It's like, okay, I'm in Florida. I'm sorry, I'm in Hollywood. Wait a minute. All right.
Well, it was a brief stint, because when my mom realized, she was like, okay, if this girl starts auditioning and starts working, she's going to have to quit high school. We're going to have to probably figure out how we're going to be bi-coastal and all the things. So she put another stop once that happened. So she said to me, when you graduate high school, then you can do whatever you want. I said, great. I'm not going to go to college and I'm going to move to California. And I don't think a lot of people believed that I had the courage to do that, but I did. So I
Good for
packed
you.
up my things. I graduated high school, never been to college, even till this day. Turned in my diploma to my mom. I got my little dog Romeo, who was with
Oh,
me. And it was me and him. And we went to Los Angeles. And it was probably the hardest season of my life. Could not even get an audition to save my life. At 16, I was thriving. I was like, man, I think I'm going to do this thing. I think I'm going to make it as an actress. Right. So I had no doubts when I moved there at 18. You're only talking about 2 years after. And it was not at all what I thought was gonna happen.
you're
It
like
was like,
9 million billion other people. I'm going to Hollywood, gonna be a star. But
yep.
you did it. You did it. So keep
Well,
going. We're
it
interested.
took, I would say by the time that I started professionally at 14 till I got my first TV show, which was on Nickelodeon, I was 24 years old. It took me 10 years
Wow.
to actually quote unquote achieve the dream of
Right.
being a working actress, being on a solid television show.
And that's why
So it was
10%
quite
of
a journey.
actors are getting
Yeah.
paid to act. And 10 years in the scheme of that profession, because I was in that profession as well. That's why I adore you so much, because you did something really big in it, which is still rare. 10 years in this industry is not a long time, because people spend a lifetime and then never get there, or it's 20 years or 25 years. You can just watch the Oscars, and there was some guy, I forgot him who he was, but last year, I mean, he'd been acting all his life, and now he was like probably in his 70s, late 80s, and finally got the role of a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's a commitment that the acting world has. So
Yeah.
keep going. I want to hear more.
Oh yeah. And I mean, as you know, it's tough. And,
Oh, it is.
when I first moved to Los Angeles, growing up in Miami, this is such a multicultural place. And I was not the type of person that really it's not that I didn't feel represented. I felt represented in so much TV film because I was related to stories. I was related to the core messages of the shows I watched growing up. Full House, Family Matters, Fresh Prince, Step by Step. Those are my favorite shows growing up,
You're talking my daughter's language. It's all
Yes, I love those shows. And so when I moved to California, some of my closest friends were blonde hair, blue eyed, and they were going on the greatest auditions. I would tell my agent, hey, I want to go out on, the audition my friend Tiffany is going out on. And she would say, you can't because you're Latina. I'm like, what does that even mean? She's like, because you look a certain way. And I was like, but what does that have to do with like the role? So there was a lot of that during that time. Thankfully,
right.
so much has changed since then. We have more opportunities now, although I feel like there's still more that we can do.
Oh, yeah.
I really started to dabble into the producing side because I said, I learned a lot from my dad. My dad, he's a general contractor now, but my dad had a lot of businesses before, failed, succeeded. It was a roller coaster of a ride, but he always used to say to me, if I would have waited for somebody to make me the CEO of a construction company, it would never happen. I have to create that for myself. So when I was 21, he bought me a laptop and a screenwriter's program. And he says, if no one's going to give you the role, create the role for yourself.
Oh my God,
Create.
I love your dad.
Yeah.
I
It was
love
like,
that.
create it for yourself.
Yes, exactly. Which is what I did with my show too. And I want my community to hear this, because my community has children your age. I have a child your age. And that is it. You don't have to, in this day and age, wait to be hired. Wait for that great audition. Wait for somebody to say, yeah, you're right for the part. Create your own, just the fact that you are producing. But God bless your dad, because I want all the parents out there, especially the moms, to hear that, because
Yes.
we're wondering on tips on how to help our kids be successful in this day and age. And that's exactly what you do. You pour belief into them. You give them the tools they need. Here's your laptop. You go do it. You make your way in this world, and don't let anybody stop you. So that I need to give your both your mom and dad a big hug. Great job.
Yes.
Kids do what you do and not what you say, and they walk the walk. And the first thing you said on this podcast was they were such a good example to me as entrepreneurs. So I think that's great, because the good and
Absolutely.
bad, and the failures and the successes all help mold you and our kids into being success. They have to see the failures and see you get up again. They can't see life just all perfect, because then they don't know how to handle their discouragements.
Absolutely. I think they set such a great example by, providing that opportunity to say, hey, no one else is if you're going to wait around for someone to give it to you, you're probably going to waiting a long time. But the gift that I didn't know was being given, not just from a physical perspective, but spiritual, mental, and all the other things, was that I was tapping into talents I didn't even know I had. I didn't know that I was as creative, or that I could produce, or all those things. And, I sold my first television show when I was 22. And although it didn't go anywhere, nothing happened, just the
Right.
journey of pitching and being in a room with executives and what does it take, and perfecting that side that I didn't even know I liked,
And
was a gift.
And we got to dig in a little deeper because you're saying all these great things. Now you're in this room with producers. Again, I have a lot of clients and people in my community. How did you get into that room? You're 21, and everybody's like, "Well, wait, how did she get in that room?" Those connections is what we're looking for. How did you get into that room for that? How did you get when they're saying no, you don't look the right part for these TV shows? Reminds me of what they used to tell Oprah. You're not right for TV or this
Yeah.
TV or that blonde or whatever. But you got in there. So give us some of that scoop on how you got in that room, how you did get that audition for like Nickelodeon and Hallmark, how you got that. Then I want to talk about how you went on to become the entrepreneur that you are right now.
Yeah, I love that. So, from the acting, so okay, well, because Nickelodeon came after the producing, which is so weird. It's like everything came out of order. So, like, as an
That's
actress,
life.
yeah. So before the producing, I had an agent in Los Angeles that really didn't service me because I wasn't getting any auditions. So I decided to move back to Miami and kind of start over. I said, okay, let me regroup myself and let me figure out what's next. And so the producing was next for me because my dad, gave me that gift, and I started to tap into these talents I didn't even know I had. So I basically went on a Google search. LinkedIn wasn't really, it was still there during that time, but it wasn't as big as it is today. Now we have so much more people on it that we can access. But between LinkedIn, Googling, IMDb Pro, all those things, finding out who are the people behind this TV show or that TV show, and reaching out, literally cold emailing them, everybody, every single day, just pitching this idea of this show that I have and see if there's any interest. And so that's how I started to get into those rooms. And although nothing happened with it, I was like, man, this is actually pretty neat. I like this part of my business that I didn't even know I was good at and that
Right.
I liked.
And you had a
Um,
show treatment already done, right? Is that what
I
you were
had,
pitching?
yep, a show treatment, and I had a sample of a pilot, and I had all those things because it was a reality show. That's what I sold first. And that's how that all got started. And then after that, I said, okay, I think I'm itching to get back into auditioning because, it didn't go anywhere. And I was like,
Right.
let me dabble back into acting and see what happens there. And so I got myself an agent here in Miami. And then that's how I started auditioning locally, doing commercials, things like that, getting my feet wet again, getting back into
Sure.
the game. And then Nickelodeon kind of came. She was like, my agent, she asked me, she says, there's this show at the time, it was called Grachi, because the Latin American version of our show, which ended up being Every Which Way, was very successful in Latin America. And so the creators were like, you know what, why don't we do it for Nickelodeon US? And they already shot the show here in Florida and Miami. They had a studio, they had all the things from the old show, and they just decided to make it for not Latin America, for America, Nickelodeon. So she had said, have you auditioned for this role yet? And I said, no, I haven't actually. And she was like, put yourself on tape. Let's get you in there and see what happens. And I did it. Within 2 weeks, I was already on the set in my first table read. They were looking for my role for quite some time. They couldn't cast my role. And it literally was one of those moments where it just happened. I went in for my second callback and they were like, it's yours. And I
Oh my
was
God, I love
there.
that.
And then
Was
I
it
was on
filmed
the
in
show for
Miami or
4 years.
Orlando? Oh my God, 4 years of that. And
Filmed in
Every Which Way,
Miami.
Miami. You're such a
Yes.
good example of not giving up. And it is so important because again, when I speak on stages, I talk to people about go back to that little girl or little boy dream that you had when you were 5 or 6, and an adult will come up to you, pinch you on your cheek, you hated it. And they would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I take us older folks back to that time and say, what did you want to be? Because your genius is in there. Because I believe we all know what we're meant to want to do at that age, but the world can beat us down. Circumstances can take our dream away. When I was little, you would have asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was rich and famous actress. I wanted exactly what you wanted to be able to say, like, thank the Academy. How I got there was definitely a whole, 48 years, long journey. But you never give up on those gifts and talents that make you special, that you shine in. So the fact you
Yeah.
didn't give up, Melissa, I love this story so much. And I love that you went back home too, because it's okay to, you're not failing backwards. You're kind of regrouping. And it's really important. People sometimes just stop. Say, okay, reassess. Don't give up on your dreams, reassess. And you went back to where you felt like your home was, you belonged, you had people you knew. And look what happened,
Yeah.
and I just love that so much. So you kind of went
Yeah.
out of the big Hollywood, New York Broadway scene and went back to where you work. There's plenty to do in Miami. And it's another key thing that I remember one of my producers said, that if you become famous locally too, and you went totally globally, but I love that. But you started there saying, let's get some local commercials, get some local goodness going, then who knows? And you did all that. And that's so
Yeah.
important. So good for you.
Yeah. I just think, it's a matter of, it's like what you said, when that dream or that calling is placed on your heart, I think what people struggle with the most is that the time frame. You don't know when, right? None of us know
Yeah.
when. I mean, not to
Yeah.
sound morbid or anything, but we don't even know we're going to die either. So like, if we don't know any of
Right.
that, then how are we going to know when we're going to quote unquote make it in life, right? So I just feel like it's about literally, if it's anything I've learned, in my little 33 years of life, is like literally just take it today, like deal with today. And when tomorrow comes, then you deal with tomorrow. Like it's so overwhelming to feel like I need to know when I'm going to get there. Please, is this even going to happen for me? Like that whole mentality, it's like, to me, it's the most overwhelming thing in the planet. So like, I just try to take it one day at a time, and whatever I feel like doing, that's what I do. Right. I felt like I needed to move back. I moved back. I literally booked the role and shot it in my own backyard. I would have never thought in a million years it would be here. Never.
Exactly. And there's a lot to say for women's intuition, because I believe that is strong.
Yeah.
And you felt the con to go back, just you'd be happier. You could have gone back to Hollywood and New York, wherever else you'd be, but you felt, let me regroup first. Let me ask you this, since you're bringing this up, I think it'd be interesting for our listeners and our viewers to know this in your generation, because you are the millennial woman. And I want to ask you to what that means. But what has the pandemic done for you? Because you're talking about exactly what I've always said. Because when I got cancer on my 38th birthday, and I lost my mom to cancer, my brother had cancer. So mortality has been really prevalent in my life since I was like your age.
Yeah.
Where, I lost my mom to cancer when I was like about 33, 34, and devastating. So I always have in me, you don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know if it's cancer or you get hit by a bus. We all kind of joke about that. But with this pandemic that really leveled the playing field, we didn't know who was going to get it or who was going to make it or who wasn't. What has that done for you now and your psyche and your goals, even more so knowing that, COVID's and the pandemic's going to happen and you don't know who's going to be here tomorrow? What has it done for you and your generation of millennial women?
I think it's made us hungrier. It's made us more grateful, more appreciative. I think it's made us realize that, that tomorrow's not guaranteed for us, right? So I have literally put new habits within myself of straight up gratitude, because I don't think I was being even grateful enough for the most basic of things. I've enjoyed my family more than I've ever had before. I have had an ambition hungrier, more aggressive than ever before. For me, I feel like life is so precious and valuable. And I think life is also, as you can see, and as you have lived, too short to, put some sort of restraining on you and your gifts. Like if God puts a calling on your heart, you must execute on it. It was given to you for a reason. Like just because it's scary and it's confusing, like honestly, I had no idea I would even have a podcast either. Like there's so many things in my life that I had no idea were even in my path, if I had just never allowed myself to be obedient to the callings that were placed on my heart. And that's the truth, right? So like we lost two people, to COVID in the pandemic in our family.
Sorry.
And so like all of that just put so much into perspective. Even my grandmother did not pass from COVID, but we didn't see her for the whole year in fear that, she would get sick. And then, she passed naturally in her sleep, which we're very grateful. She didn't suffer or anything, but those things just put so much into perspective and really to live. When I started my career, I was so adamant about no fun, no family, no vacation. I must hustle. It was like this obsession of like, I've got to, exactly. I was like, I don't have time for this, and,
Gosh.
When we sold my grandparents, we're selling my grandparents'
Wait,
house
you sold
now,
your grandparents? How much you get for them?
So no, their
That was
house.
an option.
We're selling their house now. We cleaned it all out. And so we were looking at literally all the photos of our childhood, of memories of them coming from Cuba to Miami and all these things. And I just said to myself, my goodness, we must live. Like there's just, this whole 2020 has just really put that into perspective. I'm like, I need to live my life, whether I make it to the quote unquote top or not. It's not about that. It's about being obedient to the calling, enjoying my life one day at a time and just living it, having fun, mistakes and all, not being afraid of the failures or the setbacks, just living. Like
Mhm.
we just got to live our life. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just too short. There's just, and it flies by, as you can see, the years
Yeah.
just fly by.
And you are the founder, I think it's with you and your sister, of We Are Millennial Women. So let me ask you this, because I really want to get to now, because we've got to know you a little bit more, which is so fascinating, so wonderful, is what is success for a millennial woman? Because I know, like, back in my day, it was way back in my day, I mean, becoming successful was being wealthy, being to the top, winning the Oscar, winning the Emmys. It was all about the red carpet. And because I was born and raised in New York City. And I went to like the Fame High School, and I graduated high school at 16 so I could get out of
Wow.
the world and start auditioning for Broadway and movies. And success was making it to the red carpet. And that was nothing else was, and I very quickly learned that there was a lot of not nice people in that world. And
Yeah.
the journey wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be, because I love people and I love cheerleading. And I don't like to win if somebody else has to fail.
Yeah.
So as I got just a little older, 19, I said, well, let me pursue. I'd like to still do it locally, but the pursuing the big dream is a lot of stepping on toes, a lot of, it has to be me, me, me. And I just wasn't comfortable with that long term. So
Yeah.
what is success now to the millennial woman? Because you're talking about, we love our families, we're hugging more, we appreciate life more, which is so true. So is success being happy, or is it being wealthy, or is it being, kind of tell me a little about what the millennial woman is thinking now these days? Because again,
Yeah.
your generation are our daughters and our sons too.
Yeah. I think success is it's a journey, right? So, when people say like, what's your purpose in life? Like, I don't believe you have a single purpose, because I think it changes as you evolve and as you grow. So, when I first started, I wanted the same things. I wanted to win that award. I wanted to be on the red carpet. I want all these things. As I've gotten older, priorities and my vision of success has changed. And so do the women of our generation. What we want is quality of life. We
Ooh,
want to have quality of life,
that's the hashtag.
meaning we want to be healthy, happy, successful, whatever that looks like, family, children, all the things. And some maybe don't want to have children, some
Yeah.
maybe not want to get married, and that's okay. But their version of success at the end of the day is living an authentic life, but it is full of quality, whatever that is to them. I don't think that at least the women in our community of millennial women, we are not the women that are aggressive to step on each other to make it to the top. What we want is community of like-minded women that are looking to better themselves from a mind, body, and soul perspective. How do we become the best versions of ourselves? How can we learn from each other? How can we be together more and just be more unity? So quality of life is definitely what we're looking for. When I think, even just what you were mentioning, I'm like, my gosh, I wanted those things too, but those are moments. That's
Mhm.
not a life. Those are moments of like glam. It's like, when we were in production for this third season of Millennial Women Talk, it's taken us, my gosh, like 6 months of preparation before we get in the studio to literally be in the glamour, which is on the set for 2 weeks. And then it's over and we're back behind our computers in post-production and social media and all the things. So, those moments of highlights, they're just moments, right? They're
Right.
memories. Like when you think of your childhood, your favorite memory, it's that, but that's not life. Life is what you make of it from an everyday perspective. It's the partner that you choose to spend the rest of your life with. It's the children that you want to hopefully have someday. It's the family memories, the vacations, the sitting in the park or whatever. Like those are the quality moments that really fulfill us, from an emotional, mental perspective.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that. As far as success is quality of life, and to each woman that's different. Like you
Yeah.
said, quality of life may or may not include a husband or a wife or a spouse or a significant other or
Right.
children. So whatever makes you happy, don't apologize. If
Right.
you are a loner and that you are happy and that you are having success and living a rich life, good for you. That's great. I feel that's the millennial woman. And I feel that's rubbing off on my generation as well, because we were brought up in such more of a box that this is what
Yeah.
a woman does, this is what a woman can get paid. Here's the ceiling. Even though we've been trying to break through the glass ceiling for decades now,
Yeah.
it's still, we're trying to get out of it. And I feel your generation and my other daughter's generation of 16 will really help us through that and really know whatever you want, it is success. Like whatever your definition of quality of life and success and happiness is, that's it. No questions asked. End of story. And there's
Yeah.
no, you should really be more like this. You should, when are you going to have kids? Or when are you going to get married? That's not even in the equation for some people, and it's perfectly okay. It
Yeah.
is a lifestyle, and it's
Yeah.
absolute success. If you're happy, that's success.
If it's one thing I wish people would know is that there's no right or wrong way of doing life.
Amen. It
It
really
just,
is.
there is no rule book. Like, think of it as parents, you're a mother, right? I'm not a mother yet. I hope to be someday. But parents are not, don't come with a little pamphlet of when your child is born, how to take care
Oh,
of that son or daughter. You got to figure it out, and you'll take what you know from your own mom, but you make it your own, right? And it
mhm.
doesn't mean that you are a better or a lesser mom than your mom. You're just making it work for you. And so that's why there is no right or wrong way of doing life. It's really just about the individual. And I also think that parents, need to be supportive of children, right? Set the foundation when they're kids, because it's important. Like, my mom was, I remember, like, my gosh, if it was just yesterday, literally on the way to school, I was very lucky that my mom got to take me to school every morning. And she would literally drill into my head. She's like, you have to be successful on your own. You cannot depend on a man. You got to be independent,
I like
so that
her.
I can be self-sufficient,
Good for her. Yep.
she just wanted me to be strong. She didn't want me to be, frail or anything. She just, like, you got to, whatever you want to do. I don't care what it is that you want to do. Just make sure you do it with 100% with all you have. Always finish what you start, be independent, and you have to be successful on your own. And so, like, that was things that were drilled to me. But, my mom was very involved in my life. She was never a prior. She never was like, oh, I got to get what's going on with you. But she would gently, try to start that relationship with me so that I had a friend that I can lean on when things got tough. Right. So I just think it's important for parents to be involved in their children's lives, no matter the age.
Amen. Yeah, I think your parents could teach a podcast and parenting lessons, because everything they did is perfectly right, because it's instill empowering your kids and encourage them to do whatever it is that they want. I mean, that's kind of like the easy part of it. If you just get that, whatever it is they want to do, whoever it is they want to love and be with and share or not share, it's all good. It's their life. And your parents were great. My mom was just like that. She always said, whatever you want to do, honey, you go do it. And she always encouraged me, never told me I couldn't. And that's what creates, the changes of the world. But I know a lot of people that didn't have their parents. We go back to Oprah, that didn't have the encouraging life, and look what she did for the world.
Exactly.
So anything is possible. You don't have to have a good childhood to be live an amazing life. But that's just in a nutshell what you said. I love what your parents did. And yeah, they need to be doing their own podcast. They'd be a great podcast couple. Look at you go. Now, I know you do have a sister. I know we have to wrap up in just a second, but you have a sister, Stephanie. Are there any other siblings?
Yes, we have a little brother named Christian.
Oh, I love that name, Christian. All right. Well, how old is he?
He is 27.
Oh, little brother 27. I love that. I'm thinking 12. Okay, 27. All right. Now, you guys have gotten your empowerment. You and your sister are changing the world for women. You've got a movement going on. Please talk to us a little bit about, we are Millennial Women Talk podcast, and what you've done, because I was on your websites. Give us your websites, because people need to go and follow you, because you're an inspiration to that millennial age group and also others. You're an inspiration to me, my community, and what you can do, because I know what they're going to ask. They're going to say, Aurea, how did Melissa and her sister get, 14,000 followers? Give us some do's and don'ts on, how you started this, a little bit about how you built this community. Did it take a long time as well?
Oh yeah. We started, the Millennial Women journey started in actually 2016. So it's so funny. Not too long ago, when I got off of Nickelodeon, and then I got Hallmark too in 2018 when we actually started the podcast, which was, I'll get into that. I was crazy. So
you had me at Hallmark. I got Hallmark blankets and I'm watching Hallmark shirts and my little cups. I'm watching Hallmark movies.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. It's so funny. And when I finished Every Which Way, I almost had a whole repeat when I was 18. Like, I couldn't get another audition to save my life. And I said, I don't get it. I just finished a TV show. Why can't I get another job? So I went back to my roots and creation. And, Millennial Women was actually a TV show called Millennial Girls. And I went back to what I knew, creating and pitching. No one wanted to buy the series, but people kept saying, We love you and your sister. There's something about you and your sister together. So a light bulb kind of went on. And I said, you know what? Maybe this is a podcast. Stephanie and I, my sister, we've been having these conversations about mind, body, and soul, about spirituality, about God, what is life, like all these things since we were like 10 years old. So we loved talking about, these types of topics. And, our dad introduced us to Tony Robbins and Dr. Wayne Dyer. So we grew up listening to these motivational speakers.
Again, who is your dad and your mom? I mean, they are amazing. I want them on the show next. I have got to talk to them. Just saying.
You're so funny.
My dad introduced me to Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think my dad,
again.
My dad just really loves, I'm actually going to shut this off. Sorry. I'm going to pause for editing for you. There we go. Sorry. My Slack is going crazy and I just muted it. All right. Back to the podcast.
There you go.
So, my dad just, in order for him to sort of get hyped and motivated, he found, these spiritual motivational speakers, and he passed it on to his children. And I'm so glad that he did. And so my sister and I always really wanted to have conversations like this. And so, I said, you know what, Steph, I think this is a podcast, but I think this is a traveling podcast. And the reason why is because in order for us to get to hear the voices of the women of our generation, it cannot be through fictional characters. We have to meet them. We have to be in the same room as them. And so we pre-COVID were the first of its kind, a traveling podcast. We literally would host live podcast meetup events, and we would do our interviews. We would talk to the women in these cities across the country and have these open floor conversations of just getting to know what millennial women are going through in Austin, in Nashville, in our hometown of Miami, in New York City, right? To prove that ultimately and fundamentally, we're so much more alike than we are different. That's what we wanted to prove, because all millennial women around the world, yes, economically we're different and we are raised different and all these things. So fundamentally, we all want the same things. We want success. We want happiness. We want quality of life. We want those things. How can we achieve that together as a generation, as community? And we wanted to be that podcast. So we wanted to be that show for them. We wanted to inspire them, but we wanted to also give them resourceful content, downloadables, links to things, discounts for this app, like whatever we can do to be of service for our community, we wanted to do that. And so the podcast was really the only way to successfully execute a vision so big and so broad and so wide, is through a podcast. And then,
I love that.
After COVID, we decided to do an in-studio format to bring the value, to our audience, but we really cannot wait to get back on the road, because the heartbeat really is that it's those live podcast meetup events. It's meeting them in person. So we're excited next year to hit the road again.
I love that
this
idea.
became a huge undertaking for us because yes. Everybody thought we were crazy. They were like, you have no money. Like, how are you going to do this?
Best ideas. If somebody says you're crazy, that means you got to go
when
do
they
it.
kind of come out of nowhere.
Best ideas. Oh, how did you get people to show up in different cities? Yeah. How'd you get other people to show up? I mean, now we're on Clubhouse.
Right,
so that's a whole different ball game. If you're not on Clubhouse, you don't need to be on Clubhouse. But before that, how'd you get everybody to show up?
It was literally DMing everybody in Instagram until Instagram would block us from sending too many DMs. And so we would literally say, okay, we're going to New York City. Who are the influencers in New York City? Let's get them to collaborate with us to push this event, right? Have them come to the event, have them promote it, all those things. And then looking at those followers and personally inviting them and giving them a discount code and saying, hey, we're coming to your city. This is going to be a great event for like-minded women. Here's a discount code to join us, and really grassroots on the floor. It was like literally taking the concept of passing around flyers and being the flyer through DM, like us being everywhere, right? So taking old school sort of marketing and putting it into new school. So that's kind of the concept that we did. It was all grassroots,
just
literally until 5 a.m, just DMing.
Just you, your sister,
me and Stephanie.
Okay, just you two. Wow, shows what you can do with two minds
just me
together.
and Stephanie building that.
And now look at you
Yes.
guys. And you have
Yes. It was tough.
72,000 followers now. So good for you. I think that's amazing. And some people would,
Yes.
like, here's what I really want people to hear too. Some people would say, oh, well, sure, Melissa, you can do this because you're on Nickelodeon Hallmark. No, 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 no. Because what you just told me you and your sister did was grassroots in the bottom. This had nothing to do, maybe you had a couple of fans before that, kind of pushed us a little bit, but you really got on the floor. You got on your hands and knees, got out those phones, and you DM'd. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm on Nickelodeon Hallmark, so it's all just come together. So much more than that. It was you had this idea would bring people together, and you did the hard blood, sweat, and tears work for it and handed out those virtual flyers. Good for you, because we tell that to people so many times.
Well,
it's all about the follow-up and the connections and the collaboration.
Yes. And I know a lot of people have said that, right? Because you were on a TV show, so everybody rolled over. That is not true. Think about the demographic who watches Nickelodeon. Are they going to listen to Millennial Women Talk? They're not. Like, it's not the demographic. So I did have to start from the beginning. And even with Hallmark, and yes, some, maybe a few would stick
Hallmark,
around.
You're talking to my
over,
generation.
but
that's not millennials, we love you, but we're not the millennials.
Exactly. And so, it was starting from scratch, it definitely didn't roll over, as a lot of people can say that it was.
Well, Melissa, I could talk to you all day long. I know my listeners and our viewers, this will be uploaded for video as well, could get so much more from you. So I want them to connect with you. So we'll leave them as cliffhangers. Got to go connect with Melissa and her sister, see what they're doing. We Are Millennial Women is such a beautiful place. I just love the whole format. I love the website. I love your podcast. And I'm going to tell all of my community to make sure their daughters are plugged into you, because it's absolutely such a great place to be. And I love how you just entrepreneurial side. Is that a word? Entrepreneurial side. Entrepreneurial. You got a big movement going. You got t-shirts, you got all sorts of stuff, get sponsors, get everything that everybody's looking for. And you're such a good example of that. So before we go, though, I definitely want to have you back. And I really do want to talk to your parents, because I think it's so important that as we as parents, and they're probably close to my age, what we need to talk. Like, you did this wonderfully. How did you learn that? And what can we do? Because after 2020, and now the hangover of 2021, bringing our kids back, whether they're teenagers or whether they're in their 30s and need to get back into the world, there's some obstacles that we may need to be talking to them about. There's some mental health issues that we may need to talk to some more than others. So we need to come together as a community, all our different generations, how we can help each other. And for you, Melissa, the parents and the grandparents could be going through stuff as well, because we all are coming out of this. It's
absolutely
hurt us all in ways, in different ways, and the losses and the isolation. So I really believe that's a whole community and movement in itself. So I want to have you back for sure. Tell us your website, because then I have 4 kind of rapid fire questions for you to end this podcast on. That it's just always fun. I love rapid questions to get some insight on you. But tell us your website and your podcast so everybody can find you.
I love it. So the podcast is Millennial Women Talk, and really to connect with me is on Instagram. So Instagram.com/Melly Carcache is going to be your go-to for my entire world. I do a lot of things. So to be a part of that, Instagram is the best place to be.
And I love that Instagram's now connected to Clubhouse, which is where I met you. So you guys have to get on Clubhouse. Follow me, follow Melissa. There's some amazing people on Clubhouse, and the connections are there to be made if you follow up and DM them on Instagram. That's the tip. All right, Melissa, you've been wonderful. Let's do 4 quick rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. TV or movie that made the biggest impact on your career?
Whoa. Okay. So
because I didn't say book. I'm a TV movie person.
So it's a little weird, but the movie that made the biggest impact, and I'll tell you why, was Girl Interrupted with Angelina Jolie. I was 12 years old. I'm surprised my dad allowed me to rent that movie. But watching that movie got me so excited about acting, because I loved how dark and how this journey of mental health and what that was like. Because I was always so curious to know why people are the way they are. How do they get the way they get? And Angelina Jolie's just performance and Winona Ryder, like I was like, man, I want to do movies like that where I can explore different, perspectives and emotions and things. And that really made me excited about getting into the field.
That's a great answer. Oh my gosh, I love that. So good. See, it was meant to be that you watched it. So you weren't watching as just a kid wanting to see a movie. It's like, look what happened, that career move. I love that. Okay. Number 2, your best coach, director, or mentor in your life so far.
I mean, I think it's my parents,
I
you
knew
know,
it.
like,
Yay! I was going to say, if you were going to say it, I was going to say they've already inspired me.
my parents are refugees from Cuba,
Oh,
and, they built something out of nothing. And to me, whenever I feel like I can do something, I think about their journey and what they've been able to build for themselves. And as a child, seeing those failures, seeing the bankruptcies and seeing the journey, and then seeing the success just makes me feel like I could really do anything, because they didn't have all the opportunities that I have, being born in America. So I'm very grateful to them, for their support, but more importantly, for setting such a great example, and for really being a true inspiration for me and my siblings as well.
you better give them a big hug for me. Tell them Aurea McGarry sends them a
I
big
will.
fellow mom hug to both of them. I just love them so much. Okay,
I
and
will.
I just, my mom is so supportive of me, and I love when I hear of other people having, that good support. It's so special. It's really so special. We need to share our parents around with other people that may not have that. All right. So number 3, what celebrity, this is Get Celebritized podcast, would you most want to have dinner with? And if you have dinner with them, what would you ask them?
I think for me, as far as like a celebrity, I think it would be Oprah. And the reason why it would be Oprah is because she, from a business perspective, has been extremely smart. And so, her journey was, if you look at, obviously, we've all seen her journey from her Chicago newsroom days to now the Oprah that she is, how she actually got to own her TV show, what percentages were the ownership at the beginning when she got the show, what was her contract like, what was her salary like, then how did she get to own it, then, where did the show make its money, like all these like structure or business type of thoughts. I would be so curious to ask her, and really just how did she do that, and who were her team members, what were her non-negotiables as the, star of the show, or, how did she get the studio up and running, like all of these questions from a business perspective, I would love to talk to her about.
Okay, Melissa, you are the next big grand producer, because all that wrapped in one is like most would say, so they'd ask them one question. You're like, okay, how'd you do this? And your contract. You are a great producer in the making, because you've got all those right juicy questions that matter to you. But most people just say, what's your favorite place to go to dinner? What's your favorite recipe? And you're like, okay, now what's in your contract? What's your percentage?
Yeah.
I love that. So we got to get you dinner with Oprah for sure. But
Yes.
because you are in the same space, you're in that same playing field. I absolutely love that. So you are definitely going places, Melissa. And I just that was great. Okay, so we can narrow that down to one question, no problem. Number 4, and last but not least. This is very special to me because I almost died when I was 38 from cancer. It wasn't the cancer that almost killed me, it was the chemo that almost killed me. And very special to know that you just make it to another birthday. And so I created, my television show was Live Your Legacy TV, which is what won me the Emmy. Live Your Legacy Summit is the summit that I've always done since 2011. It would have been on our 13th one except for COVID, but we will do that in 2022, which is bringing celebrity and business owners together to make more money so we can give back to charities. Because I want to help as many charities before I die as I possibly can. I believe there are heroes of this world doing good, whether you're saving animals or kids or our vets, whatever it is, they're doing great things. And I want to help as many as I can. So my last question to you is, what is your legacy? And what do you want written on your tombstone?
Oh, wow. I kind of want to cry with everything you just said. I'm going to try to keep it together for this one.
That's right.
You know, that's
Oh, I love you, Melissa.
that's tough, because sorry, this is so powerful, just what you just mentioned about your life and what you want to leave behind. It's just very moving. So I apologize.
Oh,
I
please
just got so
don't. I
emotional
love
about that.
tears. I love tears.
I just hope that I could be of service, to people. I just hope that people can, with the content that I create or the messages that I share on social, or just if I meet you in person or speak to you in a podcast or hear me in a podcast, that I could have served you in some way, shape, or form, that I could provided you some value, that I have taught you something in some way, shape, or form. Because I believe ROI is not just in investments with money. I think ROI belongs also in content consumption. If you're going to spend time consuming any form of content. You should be getting something in return that's going to benefit you in some way, shape, or form, whether that's making you laugh, making you feel inspired, you learn something, whatever that may be. Make sure that when you're investing your time, it's done wisely and you're getting something in return. So I just hope that I can serve in all the projects that I do, and that I can at least implement some sort of inspiration or resource into your life. And, my legacy, I just hope that people can remember me as a person of service and a person of value and authentic, and just that I was myself, that, that Melissa was somebody that they knew she never changed or wavered no matter, and, what life threw at her, that she was always herself. And that she was always a person that was giving and always of service.
Oh, Melissa, it's beautiful. And I know you're so young, you've got a whole lifetime to live before you even think about what you're going to be remembered for. But what I see when I look at your website and I see all that you and your sister and family are giving back, I see without a doubt, no matter what happens in your life, wherever you go, all the different projects you do, and you have even begun to scratch the surface of your talents and the things you're going to be involved in. But I think on your tombstone, it's definitely going to say something like, she made our lives better. Definitely, no matter what you do, you're going to make lives better. And that can take all sorts of different shapes and turns in TV shows and movies or books or projects. But your Millennial Women movement, and as you guys grow and become whatever the next generation is, you become moms and grandmas, you will have run the whole gamut. And every step of the way, I just know that you will have made lives better all across the way from now until the day that the tombstone comes, many years down the road. So, and your parents have already done this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, your parents have already made all our lives better because how they raised you and your sister. And I haven't even met your brother yet, but I'm sure he's just the same chip off the old block.
He's amazing.
Yeah, I bet he is. Sky's the limit. Is he on Instagram too? Is he on Instagram too?
No. So no, he's not.
Oh, well,
he likes to be behind the camera.
Well, we need people behind the camera. Well, Melissa, oh my God, I talked forever. I hope you will come back. I want to see what you're up to another 6 months, a year down the road. I am your biggest fan now. I am so excited for what you're doing and how you're helping young women grow into amazing changers of this world for the better. I think you're all making this world a better place, and your generation is our future, and you are our leaders, and we're counting on you all to make a difference. Thank you for all you do. Give us your website one more time, Melissa, or your Instagram.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on your show. Really, this has been such an honor and a gift to spend this time with you. I know this will not be the last, so definitely we'll be back.
You will.
But the best place to find me is, yes, my Instagram is Melly Carcache, MELICARCACHE.
And I will put it in the description. I'll put it everywhere. I love you to pieces. Thank you for inspiring me to jump into the podcast world. I will never forget that. And we'll forever be touching base with each other, see where we are now. So thank you, Melissa, and give your family big hugs from me.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye for now. And we'll be back next time on Get Celebritized.